Continuous professional development, better known as CPD, plays a crucial role in most, if not all, professional trades. Now, this system is designed to enhance and encourage credibility within a professional industry. Another reason for its existence is to ensure the safeguarding of the mass public as well as that particular individual's professional career. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know about you, but for me, I can never really get to a point where I say I know more than enough within my professional industry or career. That's why today's episode is exciting. I mean, we've got two industry heavyweights. I don't mean that literally. I'm talking about giants of the plumbing industry amongst many others. But before I get excited, I cannot skip the protocol. Welcome to another exciting and brand new episode of Plumbing 101. Batwashu nedzina langa de Rendani Chivura, aka Randy, your number one MC. And today is full of information. I'm talking about intellectual property. I'm ready to learn as well when it comes to the concept of continuous professional development. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of things, because I'm getting too hyper and excited, all right? I think it's quite crucial that we update ourselves in the world of plumbing and our surroundings. Let's quickly get into the news.
It has been determined that an astounding 5 billion litres of untreated sewage flood our freshwater resources on a daily basis. Illegal plumbing installations are contributing to the problem, which can be defined as a national disaster. Since a major percentage of this sewage comes from defective wastewater treatment plants, with only 2% of these facilities functioning at optimal levels. IOPSA visited roughly 140 households in an unidentified Gauteng neighborhood as part of the continuing study to establish the extent of the illicit rainwater discharge into sewer systems throughout the country. A worrying 30 to 40% of homes were found to be channeling rainfall into sewer systems. While this is a common technique employed by professionals in order to drain rainwater from courtyards, many property owners are largely uninformed of the illegality of this practice. However, when this raw sewage flows into natural watercourses and finally finds its way into countries' rivers, dams, wastewater treatment plants, and seas, it poses the greatest threat of all. As a result of this situation, the Henops and Jeski rivers, as well as the Vaal Dam, have been horribly polluted with sewage. In other news, the Olifants Management Model Program has been launched by Minister Senzo Mchunu. The program looks to improve water supply in areas of Limpopo that are experiencing acute water shortages. In the world of education, the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Innovation has set up entrepreneurial hubs at Technical Vocational Education and Training (TVET) colleges to help students transition into self-employment after completing their programs. This is part of the government's overarching goal to take young South Africans in areas where they are needed. That's it from me. Let's take it back to Plumbing 101 studio.
Before we went into the news, I did tell you we've got two industry giants, amongst many other, of course, because the industry is so broad when it comes to experts. But today, we are tackling the topic CPD. Our first guest, ladies and gentlemen, is the chairperson of the Plumbing Industry Registration Board, Lee Smith. And of course, our second guest is also a board member of the PIRB, as well as the operations manager of the Institute of Plumbing South Africa, Steve Brown. Gentlemen, how are you?
Very, very well, thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Are you well?
Thank you for that introduction.
No, thank you for joining us on Plumbing 101. I think today's topic is quite a crucial one because we're talking about the plumber's favorite topic.
Oh, that is the favorite topic.
Professional development.
The
CPD.
the number one complaint.
The number one complaint, I did say this before we started engaging, that on our national roadshow, that we get various types of feedback when we're speaking continuous professional development. Positive, confusion, as well as negative. And we have to be broad. And that's why we have to tackle this conversation today. But I think it's only fair for the viewers back at home to get to know a bit about your journey, as well as how much value CPD has contributed to your life. I think we'll kickstart it off with you, Lee.
Well, I don't think it's really. I want to just circle back to the statement when I made just now about complaints.
Yes.
I think it's very important to understand, and I'll lead into your question with regards to that, is that people don't understand CPD.
Yeah.
And as a result, they complain about it.
Yes. Lack
Correct.
of knowledge.
Yeah.
Lack of knowledge
Yeah.
and lack of understanding from that point of view. And you use the word that how has CPD changed my life?
Yes.
And the reality is CPD hasn't changed my life.
Okay.
What has changed my life is my education of various things that I want to understand and my own self-development, my development in things, understanding how new technology works,
Yes.
understanding and going to a course. I obtain that information. The byproduct of it is I'm getting expertise in the industry,
Yes.
my self-knowledge, my self-worth, my expertise, growth, and all that stuff.
Growth.
And the byproduct, one of the other byproducts is, guess what? CPD. So it's not CPD that changed me.
Yes.
It is about my education that I do for myself.
So it brings value.
It brings value to myself.
All right. I'm keen to find out from your perspective, Steve.
Challenging in the beginning.
Okay.
I think like everybody else.
I'm glad you're not
You know,
romanticizing.
no,
There
I'm
you
not
go.
romanticizing. Challenging, I think challenging because it was new. You know, challenging because, you know, trying to, and I'm guilty of it, is, you know, I've been in this industry for 46 years, you know, and I've got to be honest, I learn something new every single day.
Yes.
Applying CPD for me, you know, in terms of what Lee's saying, it's not about the CPD, it's about the growth. I mean, in my position, as in many others, we are mentors. We are there to guide and assist plumbers, our registered plumbers, our IOPSA members. So for me, it's what we do, is to try and keep abreast of everything else. And I emphasize the value it brings to me, to be able to put me in a better position to be able to assist the plumber.
Yes.
And then the reverse is the same thing. If the plumber is investing himself to actually learn and obtain, he's then adding value to himself, which adds value to his business, which adds value. So there's a massive value chain that comes through. And I think, you know, we get all the challenges. Where do I find the time? Where do I do this? How do I do this? And I can't answer all of those questions for individuals. They're all different. But I think the key thing is that there is so much value, because where else do you go? Where else can you get all of this information? And we have an industry that's so productive and so proactive, is to be able to guide and assist. And I think for me, as I say, I've been suspended. I mean, I've been suspended 3 times. You know, you didn't submit your CPD there, you know, and I was angry. I was like, what the hell? But, you know, the key thing is I've experienced it all. You know, I've experienced the frustration of trying to renew again. I've experienced this, trying to log the points. So, but for me, again, it's a bit of a learning curve. You know, who else is going to do it for me? We can't expect everybody else to do it. 100%. So I think everybody has this perception that if you're a board member or you, and I'm not a practicing plumber per se anymore, but I'm still in the trenches in the field. But I think for me, and what really is good, is the phone calls that I receive from plumbers saying, I am so grateful for CPD because I've enhanced my knowledge, it's added value to my business, it's added value to me, and it's adding value to my employees because I'm pushing that all down. So for as many negatives, there are so many positives. And that's what it boils down to.
Speaking of that, I always believe that for every action, there's a reaction. All right? For every reaction, there was an action. Let's talk about the repercussions. Let's go straight into it. When one does not partake in CPD activities, what are the effects of that?
Oh, simple.
Yeah.
You're suspended. There's nothing else.
But I'm sure there's a long-term negative effect that it causes, because we spoke about the positive effects.
Yeah, and I think, sorry, Lee, I think if I go into my suspension, okay, you know, and where it is, I mean, look, it's that shock and awe that all of a sudden I'm suspended, and it'll come across that you should have known. So I think, like let's be real. You know what you've got to do. You know you got to renew your TV license. You know you got to renew your car license. So being a plumber and being a part of that profession is something that you have to do. It's a non-negotiable. You got to do it. And I think where the frustration comes from is we do tend to, and I'm guilty of it, is that I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow.
Yes,
and PIRB, the procrastination comes through, and then all of a sudden, and remember, it's just not you stopped. There's a letter that comes out saying, you have to renew, or you've got to have this and this. So it's not just a shut down shop. And then obviously you get the kickback and the feedback. But, we've got to understand, and everybody keeps saying, why have the CPD? And I think, when you register with PIRB and you've done the tests, PIRB, you're saying, you're a competent, qualified person. You are competent, because remember, it's the card of the PIRB that you get. You're a representative of it, and that's telling the public you're okay.
Okay.
And in order to have that, like any other professional body, the CPD is a part of it. You have to grow yourself. Industry changes every day. Yeah. So most of the time, and then for me anyway, I had all the excuses in the world, I'll do it tomorrow. But I think the repercussions is that there has to be you've got to go back and do it. So if you haven't done your CPD, yes, you're going to get suspended. I think the CPD team are really good, and they do help and guide. And it isn't this huge expense. Let's be real. It doesn't come down to $1 million. What the guys are doing on a daily basis, it fulfills most of the requirements. And it's not about data, and it's not about...
I think what you need to understand, you use the word, what are the repercussions? Yes. And I went straight to, well, you suspended. Yeah. Now, that's repercussions for you as an individual.
Yeah.
But now let's take it a little bit further, repercussions for the industry. And that's where I think people lose focus on the fact that there's repercussions for you as an individual, but you understand there's a bigger program out there, or there's an industry out there. And you said it in your opening statement about CPD is about professionalism in the industry, and that's important to understand. A lot of people, a lot of individuals come in, and even from the Institute of Plumbing side, they will ask you, well, what do you actually do for me? And what my response is to that?
Very popular question.
I literally say, I don't do anything for you. I mean, it might sound shocking, but the reality is that I'm not doing something for you. What we are doing is for the industry. Are you part of the industry? So therefore, I am doing it for you. And that's where we got to understand CPD as well. And it's very important, because how do you bring value into an industry? Think about it. Value in the industry is how competent that industry is. So if you want to uplift the industry needs to be competent. If there's no competency in the industry, then the industry doesn't look like a professional industry. So CPD is about uplifting the industry as a collective, not as an individual, as a collective. Because as a collective, if we uplift the industry together, we are all going to get, let me rephrase it. If we work together to uplift the industry, we are working to uplift the industry. You are a component in the industry, so therefore you will be uplifted.
100%. You can't punch with a finger. You have to put all fingers together to create a force. That's Champions for Charity. I had to slot that in.
Okay. Hopefully you're going to go easy this year. Yeah, we saw that.
So just to go back to, let me punch this to you. So when you ask the repercussions, I went straight to that individual. But look at the repercussions of the industry. And that's what CPD is about. Is about development of oneself, for oneself, but as a collective, we are uplifting the industry. And that's where you will benefit. You will benefit, as Steve said, the guys that phone him up and say, hey, I'm benefiting from CPD. No, you're not benefiting from CPD. You're benefiting because you trained yourself, you did everything. CPD is a byproduct thereof. So for yourself, you've done it, but you've contributed to the excellence of the industry and uplifted yourself.
And I think we're seeing it, Rendani. I think we're seeing it, with my involvement with the auditing team and everything else. And we see it. We start to see the changes within installations. We start to see the non-compliance notices being filled out correctly.
Yes.
We see that creative awareness to the consumer in terms of items. So as we said, that industry is just growing and growing and growing. And there's just so much value add, in terms of that. And consumers, and I think when we go through and we do these things, they're like, wow, that you've got a proactive industry like we are. Credibility is here. And that's where it is. And I think, as I attend, the tech talks and the business one-on-ones, and I learn something. It might be, it's like everything else. You'll know 90%, but it's that 10% that you're getting. And I think finding the time, if you really want to go, you'll find the time to do it and add the value to yourself. If you want to do it,
you'll put your energy into it. I want to take it back to the viewers, especially those that are watching right now. If you're a plumber as well, I'm hoping that you're getting to see the value that CPD has to offer, but everyone has to play their role. Now, we're going to go for an ad break, but before we do that, I have to tell our industry giants that when we come back from the ad break, I'm bringing the tough questions now.
Oh, no. Right? Yeah, we're leaving now. So we've just ran out of time. Thanks very much.
I'm not going to let them go, all right? I'm bringing the tough questions, but before we do that, let's get a little breather, and we'll come back just after this. Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Plumbing 101. Just in case you don't know, today's topic is all about continuous professional development, CPD. I think it's the plumber's most favorite topic. I did say this before we did go on our ad break, that on our national road shows where we go throughout the entire country engaging the different plumbers, even consumers, when it comes to the topic of discussion, CPD, we always have mixed responses. And I think our guests, our industry giants, have touched on a few things, but I did say I'm not going to let them go easy today. We're going to bring the big questions out, all right? I want to get into the semantics, the details. I think Lee would love this word, semantics, all right?
You'll have to explain it to me, because it's like...
And you'll have to spell it. Tell me how to
spell it. Do I get CPD points if I spell it correctly?
But let's get into, I think where the confusion comes is the process. It's the process, the point system, the allocation of points, and the time allocated to do that specific activity to someone who's still confused around that. Because if we can give some sort of clarity in a simplified way, I think perhaps there'd be some progressiveness in this discussion outside the studio. All right, let's talk about point allocation and how it works with CPD, especially in that time frame.
Yes. Let's start. The reason why I say with Steve is because Steve sits on the CPD committee.
There we go.
I don't. There's different committees within PIRB.
Yes.
Steve sits on the CPD committee, so he can run through how the point allocation.
So I think it goes back to, and everybody seems to think that it's like one individual that makes up all of these rules and regulations, and we do have a CPD committee. There is, and CPD. The committee sits with the applications or the submissions of content of materials and application of the points. So, and again, it's like what we were saying in the break, is going back to that time. What is the time? 0.25 points is what, half an hour, whatever the case may be. And then they look at that content and they'll break it down and see what is the value, what is the time frame. And it's a collective sitting there going, yes, it's 4 hours, it's 3 hours, and those are the points that go through. And then we'll have the other submissions that come through where it'll come in as, okay, we're going to do this as a like going to the road show, for example. What are the points there? You get a lot of people going, when I go to the road show, I get 1 point, but what did I learn? But I think the key thing is that engagement and what we're talking about. It's actually getting yourself out of your comfort zone and going and asking the questions. And I think a lot of hearsay goes around, the CPD, and it's like, it's a money-making thing, which it isn't. But it's the collective and the structure that's there. Nothing's done by, Lea and I, or 3 people sitting in a room going, yep, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Let's wake up today and how do we upset the plumbers? It's not that. It's a collective. There's a responsibility and a well thought out way in which to do it. And then coming back from the plumber is that information where they'll come back and say, well, could we do this? And again, it's an engagement. It's not a one-way street of information. It's 2 ways. It comes fed up. Yes. It'll come to me and I'll raise it with the board, and it'll go to CPD. So the point allocation is there in terms of it. And sometimes it's not about the points. We're doing it anyway. A lot of the thing that's there, we're doing it already. So
I think
the structure's there.
Just to end, the structure is there, but in the same token is that structure specifically fits for somebody who wishes to get credits for a CPD activity.
That's correct. That's what.
But don't get sucked into the fact that that's the only things you can do. Yeah. There's so much you can do. The only thing we say is whatever you are doing, don't go now think that you're going to go to a cake baking course. Because
that's right.
That doesn't add value to the industry. So if you go to a first aid course and it's not on the CPD menu and whatever it is, submit it and say we went on a CPD course, or you know what, I went on an advanced driving course, or I did X, or as Steve indicated early on, I mentored my employees or anybody within to the industry from it. I did a charity outreach that added to not to the industry, but it gave of my time that uplifted. Yes, we can debate that type of thing but it's for the community at large type of thing. So we mustn't get sucked into the fact that CPD is a classroom. I need to go into the classroom and sit up and look in a book and read something. It's beyond that thing. It's continuous professional development of oneself and in turn the industry.
And I think that when that conversation happens, when you have it, and you say, you take that CPD menu, for example, and you say, are you doing that? And the plumber will go, yes, I am. Okay. Do you do this? Yes, I have. And then before you know it, you're down to a point of where, you got 3 or 4 points to do. So most of the individuals have already done it. And it's just sometimes the explanation in terms of how to submit and what to do. And maybe, we need to spend a little bit more time on that, because it seems to be, for some individuals anyway, and me included, when I got suspended, is what do I do? How do I put it? And I'm in the thing, and I'm just the most uncomputer literate person you've ever found. But and we accept those challenges, and as I say, the team, not the board, but the team that work with it, they are so busy, and the positives that come out that in going that extra mile to make sure, because nobody wants anybody suspended for that. It's just try and work it.
I have to add this, and I want to speak on behalf, and excuse my ignorance in this question, all right? I'm speaking on behalf of the plumber, who says he's been in the industry for close to 30, 40 years. He knows what he's doing, and he's stuck in the practical activity of working and offering the services that they do. And that plumber would come with a reason of, it's moving me away from my work. And I'm sure you've heard this, all right? How do we make that plumber comprehend that it's not moving you away? It's going to enhance your performance. Because they've been doing this for years, and CPD for them is a totally new concept.
So you're telling me, Rendani, that nobody learns every day?
No, you cannot never stop learning.
Right, there you go. It's a matter of translating what you're learning and how do I fit it into my mechanism. It's simple as it's that translation. We're not forced, because you do it naturally. We do training naturally in any form, way or means or whatever it is from that point of view. And let's talk a little bit about not the time, but the time. I mean, you mentioned this, but don't have time. Well, let's just unpack that one a little bit more.
Let's do that.
So I use my philosophy is in life. You've got 8 hours that you sleep. You've got 24 hours in the day.
Yes.
8 hours that you generally sleep. 8 hours that you go to work and you apply your work. Isn't that so? That means you've got 8 hours to do what with? Now that 8 hours can be family time, it can be your own time, it can be going watching sports, and it could also be about how you enrich yourself. Isn't that so? We can argue that in your work time, you're actually enriching yourself through, oh, I walked into the store, I saw a new product I wanted to do, whatever it is. So you got, theoretically, I'm not going to, let me just for easy maths, 16 hours in a 24-hour day that you can learn something. Now you can tell me you can't find time out of that specific. But I want to extend on that one because I want to go back to the previous statement about these points. And Steve touched on it. So what does 20 points actually mean?
Yes.
What does it mean?
Let's break that down.
Yeah, so, okay, cool. So because, and I use the things, we're not, PIRB is not saying, we don't want to listen to you. When the information comes in, the committee absorbs it, deliberates on it, and then puts it out. But remember I said to you, it's not about you, it's about what's best for the industry, if you know what I'm saying. So if you say that I don't do anything, well, maybe I didn't do it for you, but it doesn't mean you're the only one that had it. But the point I'm making is that the committee received this request that they thought 25 points are too high.
Yes.
So now let's have the conversation. So you say it's too much, but in reality, what does 25 points mean? Because 25 points means nothing if you don't equate it to something. So yes, they absorbed it, and now it's down to 20 points. That's for the licensed plumber. So now, but still, what does 20 points mean? Because now we're going to have the same argument in another 2 years' time. Oh, 20 is too high. Yeah. So I'm going to put something in practical. So I have this meet and greet session every second month. Sorry, every second week.
Yes.
And we bring in a whole lot of plumbers. We sit around, about 10 of them, and we have a conversation, about anything.
Yeah.
And the conversation of CPD comes up most of the time. Yeah. Now we go through this exercise. I don't give them the answer. It says, well, what does 20 points mean? So we go through this whole conversation, and we get to the point that so I'm not going to go through the because it's easier just to, they agree that fact is you learn every day. Isn't that so? That's true. Now the question is, how do you measure learning? How do you measure that? Some of the good answers that come out with a certificate. So I learned, and therefore I got a certificate proving that I'm competent. Yes. My counter argument to that is that I can do a 6-year degree and get a certificate, and I can do a 30-minute online course and get a certificate. So it's a bit unequitable if we say for every certificate that you give us, we'll give you 5 points. So
piece of paper.
So it's a piece of paper. So we can't really measure it on that specific. We got it. And what it boils down to, it's a time allocation.
Yes. So
it's a time allocation. How much time did you take in that course? And therefore one would assume if you didn't fall asleep in the course or anything from that point, the longer the course is, more knowledge is imparted in you. So that's clear. So they all agreed to that one. So I said, so then the question is, if we agree that you continuously learn and we measure it in hours, how many hours a year do you believe you should impart in yourself when you got 16 hours a day? Wow. And then they come back. The average answer is between 300 and 400 hours a year that they believe they should use with themselves in enriching themselves. Yeah. So I said, guys, brilliant. Brilliant. So now, tomorrow, what we're going to do is, you're going to be the new CPD committee. We're going to put a letter out there. For your 300 hours, you have to achieve 300 CPD points. So that's the point is, if you don't understand the 20 means nothing. So if you break it down, what does 20 mean? 20 means you have to do 40 hours a year.
Come on.
40 hours a year that you need to enrich yourself.
Minimum.
Yes, not.
Oh my goodness.
I'm asking you, just not me.
Yeah.
The PR or the profession is saying, please enrich yourself by taking 40 hours out of your life. Apply it to yourself so you can uplift yourself. You can improve yourself, in turn improve your business. But then as a collective, if we throw that all into a pot, we're lifting the industry up.
I think just to add on, I think it's quite crucial that people understand that it should be done consciously.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a matter of trying to rush it just to get my CPD.
Well, that's actually what happens. So, and I'm going to tell you now, you got your renewal's coming up in January. You've done no CPD points, and I've done it. You go, what do we do now? I remember I went here. I remember. No, that was this, and that
Sorry,
becomes
Steve,
it.
you started it off wrong. It's exactly that. Come up for renewal, lastminute.com.
Yeah.
They come in. Sorry, you're going to be suspended. Now, the first thing is, it's not about where I can find points.
Yeah.
You are all to blame. Blake, this CPD is rubbish. This is, how can you ask me for all this stuff? How can you ask me for all this stuff? Why do you make it so difficult? But then when you get that one put out of the way, it says, now exactly what Steve says, let's sit you down and actually work out what you did throughout the year. And 90% of them
already done it.
have already done it.
And more points than the 20.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Invariably,
it's all about,
that's where
you use the word, it's a consistent thing. That's what we're trying to get in. Is just consistently do that. We acknowledge the fact, and we received information from the industry and said that we find it a bit difficult to put those things, upload the things. We're changing some technology. We're busy doing some stuff, which makes it easier.
Yes.
You're going to still have to do something.
Yeah.
It's not just going to fall down and happen. You still have to go that little bit. So, but what we're doing is we're putting new technology in place to just quickly just add this, and there it is.
But I think the accountability has to go back to the plumber. There's an ad on TV that, what's your credit score? While we're sitting here, I was just thinking about that. And, we could be two plumbers. But if you had to ask the plumber, 3 months in, where are you within your CPD journey for 2022-23? Not knowing. And it's to just be able to be conscious of it. And so where are we? What do I need to do? What is my plan? What am I going to do? And I think that the benefits are there. They're certainly there. And as much as it's squealing and everything else, is that invariably it comes back as I'm a better plumber because of CPD and the outcome. And that's really what it boils down to. There's a chap in Joburg, I won't mention his name, but he'll phone me constantly. Saying, Steve, this PIRB and CPD it's actually forced me, because he's maybe an individual that, why do I have to? I'll do it when I have to. But because he now has to do it, he's now got into the norm. It's become a norm for him. It becomes, part of the daily journey. And he's a far better plumber and a business person than he was before CPD.
There we go. I think I want to take it back to our viewers back at home. I mean, the conversation is tight. Even I myself am learning a lot more. That's why I call them industry giants. There's a lot of information, and sometimes clarity brings ease. And I think that's the reason for this episode, to make sure that you really understand the processes. As a plumber, you are probably already engaged in those activities. But before we wrap up the conversation, we do need to take another quick ad break, so we'll be right back just after this. Being part of an industry professional body is a personal decision.
To those who take pride in their trade, it stretches far beyond having a status of being licensed to issue certificates of compliance.
To them, the consumer matters.
As part of the plumbing industry, you help to bring the most valuable commodity to civilization. Water is life.
Be sure to continue to reap the benefits of being a proudly PIRB registered plumber
by continually renewing your registration.
Welcome back. Just before we went to the break, we were speaking to our industry giants, tackling the concept of continuous professional development. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I told you, I'm also learning. I said this myself. You can never stop learning. And I did that intentionally, if you got what I was doing. But anyways, to wrap the conversation up, right? It's always good to talk about the challenges that exist within any existing system or program. What are the challenges that we're mostly facing within the CPD program?
In one short word, lack of understanding.
Lack of understanding.
But I want to be clear about that one. It's not because that there's not enough information about CPD. I think the lack of understanding is within the plumber, not stepping back. In life, we just and I understand it. I understand it that it's a rat race for us.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But whenever you hit a crisis, I always tell my people in my businesses and within the PIRB and offices is when you hit a crisis, don't try and plow forward.
Yes.
Step back out of the equation.
Yes.
Just take a break. It's like building a house. Build a proper foundation and the rest will build up. So take a break, understand it, and then it will address your problems. You will still have You still have other issues that have come about from that point of view. But I think that's our biggest challenge, is that, and therefore we go out on the road shows. You know, the road shows that are out there. You mentioned earlier on the questions. It's continuously coming back. And once you understand it, it's not a difficult concept, because learning is natural. It's a natural process.
It's an ever-learning experience.
Yes, so yes, we do. And every time we meet the challenge, we try and overcome it.
There we go.
Or we try and put systems in place so we understand. Like, again, I mentioned to you is that the guys were saying it's challenging for us to upload the stuff or put the stuff into the system. So we've developed systems, so we're busy coding it and putting it together. That will
try and
come up
make
with
it
a new
user-friendly, to make it easier.
Again, I want to be very. It's currently user-friendly.
Yes.
But how do we take that, step back, and say, how do we take one or two components out that you don't have so many steps again?
100%. To make it easier.
Make it easier. That's all it is. You press 3 buttons and then you got it.
There we go. Okay.
And I think the other thing is, what the plumber doesn't realize is that they can be a part of it. If they see items that they believe would add value, and we do have that. But like what you would see for a negative with one individual is a positive for another. So to try and find the balance, that one mix fixes everybody isn't. But I think the key thing for me is that the CPD adds a huge amount of value to our industry, to everything that we do, and to the individuals. And I think it's not going to go away.
Yes.
And even if the CPD, we still learn every day. It's just calculating what we've got. But inclusive must happen.
There we go. Talking about growth of an industry. I mean, I'm so excited about the whole positive competition. Let me put it that way. The ratings of the plumbers, and I think that obviously the objective is to enhance efficiency. And that's one of the solutions when we speak CPD. All right. Maybe perhaps just for someone who's watching back at home, how CPD aligned to the plumber's personal ratings.
Are you specifically making reference to the performance rating?
The performance ratings, that's new, which within the industry, yes.
So it's very, all of us have got this desire to be the head of the pack.
Yes.
All of us wants to be at the front. They want to stand up and say, look what I've done. And the concept came about from the fact that we all like the like button.
Yes.
More likes I get, woohoo, great, 100%. So we said, well, how do we take that psychology about I want to be ahead of the pack and work it into CPD? So we just put a performance rating system together that says if you do X, it culminates into your performance rating. If you know what I'm saying. If you do Y, it brings into it. So the performance rating is a rating of various activities you have done within the PIRB. Positive and negative.
Okay.
It's not just
It's not one-sided.
So let's approach it from the performance rating. If you get audited, you could have a good audit, a positive audit. You get a learning experience from that as well. But at the same token, you also get, hey, you did, this is not 100% correct.
Not compliant,
So that's you can view it as a negative, isn't that so?
Yes.
But how do you counter that? With a positive, which is CPD.
There we
and
go.
what those two is, they're just culminated together and gets put into a scoring system. And we're just saying, these are the performers for the industry. These are the guys that are standing out and our true, I don't want to use the word heroes, but the true strong professionals that want to, ambassadors, I like that specific word, that want to be in that specific space. And then it's just a matter of saying, well, if you're the best one, he has a medal, he has a badge.
Recognition as well.
Recognition. And that's exactly what you want. That's just that process of doing. It's literally the performance rating is based on the activities that you do predominantly within the CPD environment.
There we go. I think it goes back to, if you're passionate about the industry, you certainly want to be known as the best. And if you're not the best, it kind of motivates you to be, I need to be up there. But what that does, it causes a ripple effect of activity, efficiency, which leads to growth for the plumbing industry.
And competition as well, like Lee's saying. And I think it's new, like everything else. And it's going to, like I said earlier, it's like everybody running the marathon. You got the oak out in front and you got me at the back going, geez, I have to do this. But, you're going to have that. And I think it takes a bit of time. And we've seen it. Plumbers phoning up and saying, geez, I can't afford this. I don't want to have a negative rating. You know, what do I do? And I think, like Lee says, carrot and stick. But again, we're just moving forward. We're just trying to make the industry better and people better and our plumbers better.
But I think that's a subject on its own.
Yeah,
So I think
for sure.
we can talk about the fact that how does the performance rating influence your company? Because remember, companies, and just to briefly touch on it, competence in a company doesn't lie within the company itself. It lies within the people that work for that company. In the same way, a profession is not a profession. A profession is dependent on the competency of the people in that profession. The same principle applies for a company. And therefore, what you're going to find over time is that the plumber's rating is going to work itself into the company, you know what I'm saying? And then saying, these are all the plumbers that are working for you, and it's going to aggregate, and therefore you're now going to rate the company to the consumer. So when you go out to the consumer now can select who is the most competent company they can want to engage with.
And I think it's quite crucial to remind our viewers, this is a new system set in place. So obviously there are things that we're going to see that would need a bit of adjustment here and there as we go. But gentlemen, on the basis of time, all right, I think just one more final statement when it comes to continuous professional development. What do you want to leave our viewers with back at home? That last punch for C4C.
So for me, I've advocated it already, and I said I think what's very important is that you need to step back. It's not as complicated as you seem it is. Step back, understand it, and do it consistently.
Consistently as well. Steve?
Yeah, I think just in closing, I mean, I've seen the fruits of it. And I think for me, I just want to say thank you to the plumbers that have grasped it. Thank you to the plumbers that have actually added the value, whether it be good or bad, in terms of information coming back to us. Because it is certain things that we do listen to, and I can see the benefits. So for me, it's a non-negotiable that CPD enhances our industry and makes you a better plumber, and that's all we're looking for.
There we go. They say some people never get their flowers while they can still smell them. So I'm going to speak on behalf of those who appreciate the mechanisms that you've set in place to grow our industry. Thank you so much for joining us, gentlemen. I think there's a lot of value in this conversation, but I do certainly think it shouldn't be a one-time engagement. We also have to be consistent in this. Correct. So we'll probably get a bigger couch next time, you know, to adjust all of us. I'll probably sit in the middle next time.
You can't. No, you can't. No.
But to our viewers back at home, what a fantastic engagement. I did tell you, we have the chairperson of the Plumbing Industry Registration Board, Lee Smith, as well as a board member of the PIRB and the operations manager of the Institute of Plumbing South Africa, Steve Brown. Value added in this conversation. I'll keep on saying it. I continuously develop my profession today with the information that I received. But I want to keep on reminding you to make sure you subscribe. Keep on watching the show. It's called Plumbing 101. And just in case you forgot who I am, I go by the name of Rendani Chibura, a.k.a. Rendi, your #1 MC. Wrapping it up with the news.
Welcome to the entertainment section of the Plumbing 101 news. As winter fast approaches, South Africa's first LGBTQI+ Pride shelter in Cape Town is in need of repairs to keep the winter cold at bay. The Pride Shelter Trust, according to Nicole Joy Alexander, needs assistance with painting, electrical maintenance, plumbing, and other repairs to keep the shelter in good working order. This July, Plumbing Indaba, brought to you by IOPSA and the PIRB, will take place from the 27th to the 30th of July. Following close behind the boxing event of the year, Champions for Charity, Fighting for a Better South Africa, takes place on the 30th of July. In other announcements, the Plumbing Travelling Exhibitions, aka Plum Drain Africa, has kicked off in Mpumalanga as of the 12th of May. And before I go, thank you to Plumlink and Build It Mpumalanga for hosting the PIRB Roadshow. Our next stop, KwaZulu-Natal. See you there. That's it from me and the Plumbing 101 team. Until next time, adios.